Good evening folks, 21st Century Caveman here. Hope everybody's well, hope everybody's happy, and welcome to another episode in the series How to Make a Man Cave, She Shed, Workshop, Cabin in the Woods. Whatever labour you apply, the process is exactly the same. So as you will see from the opening clips, I've put some spacers on the floor, and these create gaps between the floor and the bottom of the boards to allow for expansion and contraction. And when I'm a little bit further down the road with this, I'll be sealing those. So basically I'm using a combination of nails and screws because at this stage in the game I was running out of screws and I just wanted to sort of crack on with this without having to sort of down tools, go and buy more screws, and quite apart from that, the extra expense in doing that. Now the OSB boards which I'm using are 11mm thick. They're very strong, they're structural grade OSB boards, and the reason I've got the plastic sheet or the plastic membrane at the back is because I've insulated between the timber framework. And the reason I've done that is because I will be using this this man cave all year round, and therefore I'll be, heating it, in winter when it's very, very cold. And because of that, I need to sort of, trap the heat, etc. But the reason I needed to put the plastic sheet or the plastic membrane in place was because I needed to stop any moisture in the air getting, it eventually would permeate through these boards. It would make the insulation damp and therefore cause it to rot and create mould at the back of the boards. So basically I found that the screws in particular, I mean look, I don't like using nails because if you need to remove boards, if you need to remove timber, it can damage them, whereas if you need to do likewise with screws, all you need to do is unscrew them. Now because you've got the framework which is 75mm, the insulation was 100mm, and you've got the thick plastic sheet on top of that, it does of course trap air, and so these screws were very helpful indeed in actually pulling the OSB boards into the timber framework. Now because I was running low on screws, I remembered that I had loads of drywall screws left over from a previous plastering job. So these drywall screws then are about 65mm long. They're bugle head black phosphate coated drywall screws. You can use them inside or externally. So basically these are ideal for an application like this. I had hundreds of the things left over. They're also dirt cheap to buy, and basically because I'm not using them in a structural application, they're going to be more than strong enough, more than adequate to hold these boards in place, and absolutely perfect for a job like this. And as I say, they're dirt cheap as well. Now for those viewers who aren't aware or can't remember, I live in the UK. So the environment here in the UK is basically pretty damp, cold and miserable most of the time, and that incidentally is why I decided to insulate this man cave and then to put the moisture, the waterproof membrane to protect the insulation. All of these boards incidentally are being screwed into the timber framework, obviously. Okay then, so we're on another day here, and I have my son Jared helping me out. So this is a some quality father and son time, just doing some DIY together. I personally believe that DIY offers very valuable life skills, and it's very important for youngsters to learn these sorts of skills to help them through their life, really. Now, although it might not be apparent from the videos, all of these boards were secured to the timber framework, all around the perimeters, and along the vertical uprights, using, and they were secured multiple times. So yeah, there's absolutely no point whatsoever in videoing every time I, screw into the boards. But, just by way of example, every board vertically had about 6 screws in it. And as I say, they were secured horizontally round about every sort of 6 inches or 150 millimetres.
Right, hang on, drop it a bit. No, we got it. So let's just set this on top of the board underneath, if it'll go. Will it go or not? Give it a push. That is absolutely. It don't get any better than that, Jared. This side. Right folks, I've hit a little bit of a snag. I was going to cut out some board, just to board out this area here, but I just come to realise, in fact I was just about to cut the board out, then I thought, hang on a minute, something at the back of my mind just told me to check it out. There isn't anything on this side to fix the board to, which is a bit of a bugger. So I think the only thing I can do really is to cut the polythene in the corner and see if I can insert a timber batten along there, so I've actually got something to secure the board to. So I don't think we've got any other option really. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to do it, just gonna have to crack on with it. So if you guys can see what I mean, look down here, don't know how well you're going to be able to see, but there's nothing for me to secure the board to. There's a nice bit of timber there. I think basically what I'm going to have to do is cut back some of this insulation and basically screw a timber batten or a couple, so I'll get 2 thicknesses, and basically just put it down there in order that I've got something to screw into. So yeah, almost certainly that's what I've got to do. Okay, well anyway, it's something which can be rectified, and that's the main thing. Right guys, so something else I didn't think about. Up here, look, there's a recess. So if I go to put a piece of board, there's nothing to tack it to. Basically, it's nothing. There isn't a rafter to attach it to. So what I'm going to have to do, look, is I've cut a piece of timber. I'm going to have to secure that the best way I can, so that when I actually fix the boards to the ceiling, I've got something to screw up to secure it.
Right folks, so here you'll see me faffing around with the ceiling, and basically I didn't use my best judgment in deciding where to site the vents. I wanted some cross ventilation in the man cave, so I put a couple of vents under the eaves of this building, without realising or fully appreciating at the time that when I boarded over the ceiling it would actually, cover up the gap completely. So, it took some sort of time and effort trying to think of a way in which I could actually keep the vents open without compromising me boarding over the ceiling, if any of that makes any sense. So basically I ended up making a sort of a chute, for want of a better word, so the air could come in from the outside, come into the man cave. We've still got ventilation holes on opposite sides, on opposite walls, but it was a lot of faffing around, and certainly if I had to do this again, which I'm sure I will be adopting a different approach, because the amount of time and effort and faffing around, it just wasn't worth it basically. Right, so we're now measuring up and marking the last board for the ceiling, and we need to do 1 or 2 cutouts just to get around the the vents in the ceiling, and this will be another part of the project completed. Now, for those of you who have a circular saw, one way of getting absolutely perfectly straight edges is to measure the distance from the line you want to cut from the blade, and then secure a straight edge in the appropriate place, and it just means basically you can use it as a guide to run your circular saw down, and you're guaranteed to get an absolutely perfectly straight cut exactly where you want it. Now, the more you use one of these circular saws, the better you'll be at manipulating the thing, and there will come a point where you can do some really nice long straight cuts without actually using something as a guide. Right folks, I've cut the last board to size. There are a couple of cutouts there which will enable me to finish boarding over the ceiling without compromising the areas for the cross ventilation. So once this board's up and secured into place, this will be another part of the project completed, and of course will be a step closer to the finished result. Now, I can't remember whether I've already mentioned this, but wherever there are any joins with the OSB boards, I'll actually be sealing those with a flexible frame sealant, which will obviously seal the gaps but also allow for expansion and contraction.